if you've ever caught yourself thinking, I have to be perfect, or I have to be fill in the blank in order to be successful, or I have to work really, really hard to make money, or maybe even if I'm not going to be the Oprah of my field, then I just shouldn't even start, I've got a treat for you today. I'm Nikki Elledge Brown, the communication stylist, and I am very excited. This is a first for NikkiElledgeBrown.com to bring you Money Mindset Pro Denise Duffield-Thomas of LuckyBatch.com. I'm spelling it out, but you can see actually she's an author of 2 books. This is the one that I have read and loved that got me to fall in love with Denise. Get Rich Lucky Bee. And then I'm also a member of her Lucky Bee Money Bootcamp, which has a very special promotion going on right now that we'll tell you about later on in the interview. But for now, I just want to make sure that you know money blocks are real. I used to think the only block I knew of was writer's block. But money blocks are real, and they are keeping you playing small. Wherever you are, we face new money blocks at every single level of success, and it's really important to arm yourself with some mindset shifts, some tools, and some support to break right on through them, because ain't nobody got time for that. So that's exactly what we're going to do today. You will love this interview. Let's get right to it. So Denise, thank you so much for joining us. I'm excited, 1, because I just love you, and 2, because this is my first time ever hosting an interview on my own site. So welcome.
Oh my God, am I the first, Nikki?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Now, I absolutely love your work as well. And obviously we've been in each other's lives for a long time. So I'm really pumped to, share some juicy information with your tribe.
Yeah. It's going to be good. And I also just noticed right before we started recording, because I finally batched some videos the other day, and I had one that I just never did, and it says money blocks at the top.
Yep.
So this is going to take the place of that. Okay.
Good.
So to those of you watching and joining us, I've already told you why I love Denise so much, but I wanted to kind of give you an overview of what we're going to do, because there are so many things we could talk to her about and ask her about, but we do have a very specific mini training that we want to do for you around money blocks and mindset shifts, because that's her zone of genius. But selfishly, I can't let her get away without asking her best tips on baby proofing her business and writing books. So that's where we're going to start. So Denise, to cue you up, again, I'll link to the blog post below where you talked about baby proofing your business when you were expecting your little Miss Willow. But what is your number 1 tip for those of us? And again, maybe even if you're not pregnant, because you said it just made you a better CEO in general to have that very real deadline. So what are your best tips for baby proofing?
Well, the first thing is to look at any negative stories or fears that you might have around having a baby and having a business. And I actually started doing that probably a year before I even had a baby, because I did have a lot of fears around it. I thought, my business is going to die. My vagina is going to be ruined. My relationship is going to be ruined. I'm going to be poor because, babies ruin everything. That's really the mindset that I was going into it with. And my hubby, every time we went out for dinner, he'd go, are we going to have kids? And I was like, babe, my business is so important to me right now. And I just remembered so clearly, like growing up with a single mom who didn't have much money. So I think that's a really good place to start before you even go into the logistics of baby proofing your business, is like, what fears do you have around it? How do you think it's going to impact your life? And go into the negatives as well. It's okay to do that. And actually I didn't even think of any of the positives. I was only going into the negatives. And then you can start to plan for those things, because your fear might be different from somebody else's. So if your fear is your business is going to die, well, then you have to put a marketing plan in place so your business won't die when you have a baby. Maybe you're worried that the income's going to dry up, and you'll need to put a passive income stream in place, and that will determine then what you work on. So that's why I always started with, and get a kinesiologist to help you work through some of the fears. But I think just having a plan for that is really great. And then for me, I was really worried about not having any motivation after I had the baby, which was so not true, because in the hospital when she was sleeping, and I was like, this is going to be so easy. I might just do a speaker's application just while she's sleeping.
They're delightfully sleepy, especially in those first few days and weeks. Yeah. Then they wake up and you're like, oh, there you are.
Oh, crap. So I actually prepared a lot of blog content before I had Willow. I did about 6 months worth of content, which was about 25 videos or so. And I did them all in my last trimester. I would go up and I'd get a blow dry at the start of the week, and then I would try and do, 4 or 5 a week just to bank them.
Yes.
And that was the best thing that I did, because then I didn't have to scramble around for content. But as far as my audience knew, there was no break
Right.
in the communication that I had with them.
Yeah, I love that. And that's my number one thing. Like I've been resisting batching like a mofo for the last really long time, but I'm like, okay, no, finally we have a deadline. I want to make sure I'm still delivering value while I'm delivering my child. And then also just in and out of consciousness, because you want to have that space and you're the boss and you get to create it however you want. Okay, so that's great. And I'm going to link to your blog post for more details on that. And then also you've written 2 books now and they're great. And I'll link to those as well. What's your number one tip for people who want to write their first book?
Well, Nikki, I always go to the mindset, right? And a lot of people have got fears around writing a book because they think, well, who am I to write a book? And, I need somebody to choose me to write a book. And that's how it used to happen. You would get chosen by a book publisher or an agent to write a book. And the idea is now that you can choose yourself, you can self-publish, right? So you really have no excuses to do it. And then I think the biggest tip, because I've written both of my books in very, very different ways. One, I just sat down and wrote it in about 2 weeks because I had a deadline for it. So it was like being back at school and procrastinating until the last minute. Oops, sorry. The second book, though, I had a team of people helping me create it. But the feeling was still the same. I still needed to have a deadline. Otherwise, it just would not have happened. And the other tip is just to think, if you can write a tweet, a book is only a tweet times, like 10,000 or whatever. If you can write a blog post, well, then you might only have to write 150 blog posts and that's a book. So it still has a great credibility in our society, which is great for once you've written it, because then people will think you know what you're talking about. But really, it's just a very long Word document.
There you go. I like it. And
Just
again,
do it.
Denise, so again, for those of y'all who are new to her, I have a feeling many of you aren't, but if you are, she is all about the mindset stuff, which is what I love, because honestly, that's the biggest stumbling block for all of us, no matter what you're doing, even if it is a tweet or your first Periscope or your first book. And I ask her selfishly because I am going to write my first book. I'm starting it by the end of the year. That's my present to myself for maternity leave, but I do have to slap a deadline on it because I will totally just let it fill as much space as I give it without a deadline. Okay.
It will, yeah. And writing a book will bring up a lot of your stuff, but so will being in business. So yeah, I think just do it, but also give yourself permission that it's okay for you to have a book. That's the biggest thing. It's like, well, who am I to write a book? Well, just write it, and I think a lot of my tips sometimes feel like a bit like, whatever, just do it. But it's true. Just give yourself permission to get out of your own way, be imperfect. And and that's cool.
Yeah. And we're both huge on that, because again, that's the thing. It's the mindset stuff of if it's not going to be this level of perfection, and nobody's perfect. So you just have to do it, and you can tweak it and restyle it later. Okay. Exactly. So let's dig in. I have a list here of 7 money mindset shifts that everybody needs to make and go through, because this is it happens. And one thing that you say all the time, which I forget where it came from originally, the new level, new devil thing. This stuff happens all the time. So even when you've cleared them all once, the next level, you're going to come up against them all again. So that's why it's good to just have them in your toolbox. So this will be a really good resource to go back to. And I wrote them down so I can jog your memory just in case you forgot what they were. Okay. Yeah. So the first one is, I have to be everything to everyone. So what does that mean?
It's when women think that they can only be successful in business by being a slave to everyone's desires. And one of the first modules that you learn in any business course is picking a niche, and we resist it not because it's a hard exercise, because usually it's not. It's because as women, we feel like we need to serve everybody, or we're being exclusive, we're being a bitch. And everyone remembers what it was like to be in high school and to be excluded. And so the power on the other side of that, though, is to be okay in yourself and just to say, this is what I'm good at and this is what I can offer, and to say no to other people, and to be okay with maybe disappointing people by saying no. And when you can learn that, and actually the hardest thing for people to do, and I've done this before, is to say to people, actually, I don't know, that's not my zone of genius. And it hurts, especially for capable, smart women like we all are, who want to help everybody, just to say, I don't know, and that's okay to say that. So there's real power in focus and being okay with just doing what you're good at, and most importantly what you like.
Yeah.
And when you can intersect that with what people actually want from you, that's when true power, those three things come together. That's where your abundance lies.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay. I call that performing monkey syndrome. Like if I feel, and for me, limiting is I call myself a commitment phobe because I'm like, no, I don't just want to write about copy. I know that's like my only bread and butter offer right now that I have, but I'm like, no, I want to be able to talk about other stuff. And that's just for me because I resist feeling like a performing monkey. Like I do have to be, this is just the one thing if I want to experiment over here. And again, that's the bottom line, is remember that you're the boss and you get to call the shots, but it certainly is helpful to be known for one thing before you then reach out to the others. Okay.
Absolutely.
Number 2 mindset shift is that I have to be perfect in order to be successful. So what does that one mean?
Wow, this is something that I just see people get really stuck on, not at every stage of business. And all my early stuff was so janky. I did DIY websites, I did DIY branding, but I started, and I see sometimes women go, I did my course and only 2 people bought it, so I'm going to scrap it and I'm going to refund their money. And it's just like, no, everyone has to start from zero. Everyone starts with their first client and then their second client. Everyone starts from zero with their list building. But if you feel like you have to have everything in place, all your ducks in a row before you even start, it's a chicken and egg scenario. You start by being imperfect, and actually you continue by being imperfect. And the way I've tricked myself with it all the time, I've sort of said, it's okay, Denise, this is just a placeholder. You'll come up with something better next time. This is just a placeholder. Yeah. And then before you know it, you've got a business built on very great placeholders that people love.
This is true. My Course About Copy video series, it's the same, and I was literally recording it, and I've shared this picture with them where my laptop was like on a suitcase, and then I was recording the voiceover part like while we were traveling, and it was a bathroom/closet, and I'm like, there's so many things I would love to change about it, but it's working just fine. So I'm not going to change it anytime soon. And yeah, it's huge. It doesn't have to be perfect, and you don't have to be perfect. And that's one thing I love that you talk about. It's not like you have to be a certain size or your hair does have to be done. Yes, you'll feel great, so you might as well. But none of that needs to happen. You just have to do it. Okay.
Exactly.
Number 3 is everybody's going to think I'm a fraud. So how do we get over that? Because I know that's a really big one.
It's a huge one. It's a huge one for women. And it's hard, right? Because your very first hater and your very first criticism, it's just a rite of passage that everyone has to go through, because not everyone likes everything. And not everyone likes Vegemite, and that is a complete shock and surprise to me because I love it. But the people who tell me that they hate it, I don't think that they're horrible people. It's just that they have a different preference. But we think that if we start and somebody says you suck, that we're literally going to die. And we want the success, but without any of the downside or any of the criticism. But when that happens, you can totally handle it if you've got a great mastermind in place, if you've got a great coach, if you've got some of those, just those pieces of armor, like it's okay for people to not like me and to people to not agree with me. Doesn't mean that I'm a fraud and doesn't mean that I shouldn't be doing this.
Right. Exactly. I remember I had to be sometime in my first several months, and somebody sent like a random anonymous comment to my email, but he said something, you call yourself a writing expert and you use gonna, because I had said gonna or wanna or something like that. And I was like, well, first of all, I didn't call myself an expert, but I am pretty darn good at it if you see what I've done in my life. And yes, I use gonna, and my whole point of my business is writing like you speak. So yes, but it totally stung until I realized like, yeah, dude, I'm doing just fine. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay.
And it's going to happen, right? Spoiler alert to everyone listening. It totally will happen. You will get someone who criticizes you. It will sting, but it's a rite of passage. And when you can celebrate it rather than thinking it's a sign from the universe that you're not meant to do this, then that's how you're going to succeed. It's just through those little, like persistence over time.
And I think the fear of it that is worse. It's the fear of, if I put myself out there, then that's going to happen. And in reality, and it's probably the same for you, Denise, like it happens so seldomly. I mean, compared to the abundance of goodness and love and beautiful, supportive, encouraging, oh, that was just the right thing, thank you so much, those comments, compared to the ones, and you remember those ones because they're so few and far between. That's why you remember them. And so you can't let that keep yourself from putting yourself out there.
Exactly.
Leads right into number 4, which is, Oprah or bust. Like, I have to be the best, or I can't even try, because what's the point? Because so-and-so is already an expert in XYZ. So I just need to sit here and be quiet. So how do we get over that?
You get over it by allowing yourself to be part of the conversation rather than giving yourself pressure that you have to be Oprah of your industry. And I got that because I talk about money, and so I started thinking, well, if I'm not Susie Orman, I can't do it. I've been plugging Susie's book in every interview recently, but it's true. I was thinking, well, I'm not a financial advisor. Who am I to talk about money? And then I just realized, well, there could be someone out there who needs to hear it from me, and they're not going to pick up a Susie Orman book. And maybe I am the gateway drug to Susie Orman. So just give up the pressure that you have to be the thing. And it's okay for you just to add to the conversation, because that is only going to benefit your community. It's only going to benefit the conversation, whatever topic that you're talking about, to maybe bring it to a more mainstream audience, or to add to the groundswell of change. And when you do that, and when you realize it's actually not about you, you can just be part of it. Be one voice in your flavor.
Yeah, that's a huge one too. And that it really takes the pressure off of you when you think about who you're trying to serve and who you're trying to help. And you're like, oh, and I use this example all the time when I was creating a bonus for a course about copy for products, and I resisted it for months. And then finally I was like, you know what? Sally needs help with her jewelry business, and who am I to not help her the best that I can? She could have used this months ago. Who am I to be sitting on it? And then that's finally what pushed me through. So take the pressure off of you being the one over here, and think about the people on the other side who are really going to benefit from your voice. So I love that one. This next one is huge for me, which is number 5. I have to work hard to make money. And I love your saying, because my dad suggested something the other day. I was like, Dad, there are easier ways to make money. And that's definitely a Denise quote. So what do you think about working hard, having to work hard to make money?
This hits me as well. It hits me a lot, and it's one that I have to be constantly aware of. It's like having a terminal disease that you can manage, but it flares up. Does that make sense? So this is mine as well. And, because it's so ingrained in us that you have to really work hard, you have to put in the hours, you have to be persistent. It's so ingrained in every part of our culture. And we are forging new paths, like the way that we make money and the way that people listening, maybe you've seen other people make money and you want to create an online business and have more freedom. This is new. This is our generation is forging this path, and other people don't understand it, but it also starts to bring up feelings of guilt in us. It's like, well, who am I to do something that I love in my pajamas if I want to, and get paid really well for it? It starts to bump up against our upper limits and our self-imposed energetic income level. It starts to feel a bit inappropriate, for some of us to do it. And that's why we get blocked. So, one of those quotes is, there are easier ways to make money, or I serve, I deserve. It's okay for me to make money helping people. Oh, I think I've lost you. Hang on. Are you still there?
I can still hear you.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Yeah, it's okay for me to make money doing things that I love. And we are forging new paths, and that's why it feels icky for us. And that's why sometimes we sabotage ourselves by maybe trying to do everything in our business ourselves, or burning ourselves out because we're trying to recreate that story that it has to be hard to make money. And when you're aware of it and you just know that that's a recurring pattern for you, you go, why am I sitting here Googling something at 2 a.m. when this would be a $5 an hour job for somebody else?
Yeah.
You can catch yourself in the moment. And the more you can be self-aware of it, the quicker you can catch yourself so it doesn't become a problem.
Okay, speaking of Google, number 6 is, this really should be free. It should be freely available to everyone. Everybody can look up how to do XYZ. So who am I to charge for it?
Yeah, exactly. Here's the thing you have to get. There are people in the world, myself included, we want the thing. We don't want to search for the thing. We don't want to search for 50 different people teaching the thing so we can figure out which one we like. We don't want to have to search here, there, and everywhere. people are buying something from you because they want to save time, they want to save money, they want to create something in their lives, they want to improve their lives in some way. And if you're not creating it and you're not packaging it up in your flavor, one, they might never find it because it's too hard for them to find that information or to find that transformation for themselves. And you know what? People's time is worth more than that. And that's why they're paying you for a shortcut. They're paying you for your flavor or your expertise on it. They're paying you for the value that you can add to that conversation, with maybe the checklists or the quizzes or this, the self-awareness. Maybe you add a done for you element in there. Maybe you coach them through it. So there is nothing new under the sun. And of course, everyone can find everything in the world. I mean, in the future, we'll be able to 3D print our own stuff. That doesn't mean I'm going to 3D print my own things. Just because, we could make our own clothes doesn't mean we want to make our own clothes. And that is the same for transformation and information. So, you're doing people a service, and that's okay. And the people who do want to get it for free, they will anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think one thing that I'm sure I read in your book is about, like, you can't take responsibility for other people's buying decisions, and you can't presume and put that on them that they're not going to want to pay for it. And honestly, you won't know if they're going to pay for it until you do the darn thing and create that course or write the book or create the product or whatever it is. And then when you see people buying it, then that knocks that one out completely, because you're like, oh, sweet, they are buying it. Great. Okay. And then the last one, and then we'll wrap up and tell them what's exciting news coming up. So number 7 is, I don't care about the money. I just want to help people. So
yeah,
why is this one that throws?
How many times have you heard women say that, right? Or I don't care about money. I just want to be happy. Or I don't care about being successful in business. I just, my kids are more important than business and money. And I want to say all of those things are true. Of course, it's more important to be happy. And of course you want to help people. None of those things are mutually exclusive. And when you get that it's okay for you to make money in doing something that brings you pleasure, brings you abundance, and helps other people. And when you stop the flow, if you say, I'm only just going to give, and I'm never going to receive, it sets up burnout, resentment, and it really actually shrinks your ability to help more and more people. So when you charge beautifully for what you do, if you charge well for what you do, then it gives you the energy to create even more and maybe help more people. And that is only a beautiful thing. So the mantra that I use for that is, I serve, I deserve. It's okay for me to put out things in the world and help other people. And it's okay for me to receive in return. And you need both of those things.
Yeah, that's huge. And I remember struggling specifically with the deserving, because I'm like, but who am I? I don't deserve it. And then I finally had an aha moment, and I'm like, I deserve it just as much as and no less than anyone else. Like, we all deserve it. We all deserve the best that we can do, the best that we can have. And I feel like God created us that way. It's not like he wants us to play small just because for, like playing the martyr card or anything. Like, if that desire is on your heart, it's for a reason. It's okay to want it. And the reason why you're getting that value in return is because you're giving that value in return. And there's balance in all things. And that was just a really huge aha moment for me. I'm like, oh yeah, I can totally have what I want. And I hope this person gets what she wants. And by doing what I do, I can help her do that. Beautiful.
And you can role model it as well, which is really important.
Exactly. Okay. So speaking of charging beautifully, I just want to let y'all know, and this is totally, time sensitive, and only if you're watching it this week while we actually put this video out in July 2015. But Denise has an amazing program called Lucky Bee Money Boot Camp, and there are other words in there, and I'll write it down as you can see here. But anyway, it's amazing, and I am an affiliate for it because as soon as I went through it, as soon as I read her book, then I signed up for the boot camp because I just knew I wanted to be exposed to that, because I used to be a total cheapskate, penny pinching. I mean, yes, I still use my cotton pads a few nights in a row to remove my eye makeup remover, but I've gotten so much better over the last year and a half, ever since finally figuring out, like, what is this money block thing all about, and reading Denise's stuff and just being in her space. Because I know, like you and me, we're really big on this, just keeping it real, doing what you do, and making it happen however you want it to happen, whatever that looks like for you. And Denise is amazing at that. So she has a very special webinar coming up next week. And the reason why this is very important and time sensitive, and I want you to sign up as soon as you see the link below this video, is because she's closing up her money boot camp on the 23rd, right? On July 23rd?
Yes, July 23rd. Yeah, 9 p.m. Eastern.
Okay.
We're actually closing it to new members. So anyone who joins before then, you get the course, you get all the bonuses, you get the amazing community, but also you get the upgraded course for free when we launch that in October. And so that course is doubling in price. And so we always love to do a closeout kind of sale for anyone who wants to join and lock in that price. And we're actually doing something really different this time. We're actually closing it down. I mean, everyone who's in there, it's not going to close down for you guys, but we're going to close down for new members for a couple of months to really upgrade it from scratch, upgrade absolutely everything and make it an amazing course. And it needed time to, close down so it can be reborn. So anyone who wants to join, if you've been fence sitting or you need to work on your money blocks, make sure you join before the 23rd of July, and then you can get the upgraded course as well.
Yeah, and I'm going to link the video, and then even after, or link to the webinar, and then even when the webinar's over, NikkiElledgeBrown.com/money is Denise's reserved parking spot. So I'm going to change it to lead to whatever her latest freebie is and free training is, because I really think if any of these hit home with you, and I'm thinking all of them probably did, then you're going to love her stuff. And so the book is great. The boot camp is great. I wouldn't be going through the trouble of having my first interview ever on my blog if I didn't desperately want you to get in at the half price rate, because again, yes, it's all about abundance, but it's also sweet to get a really good deal. So anyway, that's the time sensitive piece, but no matter what, you're going to enjoy Denise's stuff, even if this is beyond July. And if it's October, sweet, then come join the upgraded version.
Exactly. There's never a better time to work on your money blocks.
Exactly. It's this 2015 is the year of the lucky bee. And I wanted to close, Denise, with that favorite quote that you mentioned that I just love so much. And I think we should all just really let it sink in about the lucky day thing. So you go for it.
Yeah. So sometimes we have excuses and we think tomorrow or next time or next year is my time. And I like to remind myself this, and I like to remind you that the day you decide to do it, that is your lucky day. The lucky day is not somewhere in the future. It's not waiting for the stars to align. It's not a full moon. It's not waiting for Mercury retrograde to be over. Today is your lucky day. And if you say that as well and affirm that, it will really help you energize to realize that it's totally within your power. You can choose to create your first class life now and not wait for something else. So today is your lucky day, and the day you do it, that is your lucky day.
I love it. Well, I am so thankful and feeling so lucky that we get to be on this journey together and just pushing through this frontier.
We're living the dream.
We're living the dream.
I get so excited.
Breaking stuff.
I get too excited.
So,
Thank you so much, Nikki. I've really loved connecting with your tribe, and we'll see all of your tribe in the boot camp.
Yes. All right. Thanks so much, Denise. Have a good one over there.
You too. Bye, everybody.
If you've got what you know is a great idea for a service, product, or program, but you're really just not making any money from it, I've got some ideas for you. In this video, I want to share what I know to be the simplest way to make money with your business. Okay, and I'm going to break it into 3 steps. I know I have a thing for 3 steps.